How would you feel if the person closest to you had become very ill and they had to be hospitalized? By a show of hands, how many of you would declare that through the use of technology inside their body and inside their biology, that it will help them in some sort of way? What if I told you that the size of this technology was no larger than a bacterial cell? Now, that might be pretty impressive, correct? Well, what if I told you that we can prevent these things from ever happening? Yes, by investing in a future where mental illness and pathogenic agents are put to an end. And all I need from you is your signature. My name is Rodrigo Lopez Rodriguez, and I've researched genetic modification and nanotechnology. I've worked with ASU physicists on micro-targeting, and I've researched the effects of common mental illnesses and internal diseases. I want to provide you with reasons why the nanotech development and testing is beneficial for medical advancements. I'm going to take you through a journey through cases and statistics to show you a new perspective on nanotechnology. And by the end, I hope that you'll sign my petition in agreement through the initial trials of human testing. People think that putting technology in our body is unnecessary, but I would argue that it is really needed, and there is a big problem because of that. The problem is that illnesses and diseases are much more common to the general public, and that has caused them to be difficult to control and diagnose, and is also the leading cause of death in the United States. And on top of that, our biology is capable of resisting that modern medicine. According to the National Association of Chronic Disease Directors, nearly 45% of Americans suffer from at least one chronic disease. That's more than 117 million people back in 2012. And 1 in 5 suffer from some sort of mental illness. So how do we lessen those numbers? Well, in the journal by Professor Jack Price, who conducted the sticky tape experiment, he farmed stem cells for the treatment of rat stroke victims. And over the course of a few months, those rats that were getting treatment had 100% regained their motor skills. And it's problematic because the stem cells can vary in outcomes. But take, for instance, a case where a person or a patient has bone marrow deficits. What if we combine nanotechnology and that stem cells to reproduce and manage those bone marrow deficits? But this one case won't solve the problem in its entirety. So how does this affect the public? I've mentioned that people become resistant and practically makes modern medicine useless in a sense. And this, I feel, affects the patient who receives the treatment the most. And I would also declare that they're practically living off life support, and it's not progressive, as seen through cancer patients, where they have to go through chemotherapy day in and day out. But just imagine if we could use nanotechnological robotics to target those individual cancer cells and eliminate them from growing and developing. Now that's something for you to think about. Within the article of what are the ethical concerns about genome editing, many people, especially those with religious affiliation, would consider that new technology and new medicine is unnatural and unethical inside our human body. They also argue that because it's vaguely researched and the probability of genetic deficits is quite high, that it leads for safety concerns. And to this argument, I would declare that yes, it is true. But that's the entire intention of these initial trials. We want to be able to see if we are biologically compatible and compatible to this new treatment and whether it is effective. Another argument from theirs is the availability and how it is skewed and how only the wealthy will be able to access this. Well, from an economist's point of view, no one social class can survive without another social class. And although it will be restricted initially, public availability will happen eventually. Now that I've discussed the major problem and have painted an image of its effect on the US population, let me provide you with my solution. My solution to this increasing epidemic is for the development and testing of nanotechnological devices inside the human body. And when I say development and testing, it's not to mean that there hasn't been research and implementation before, because there has, as seen in the case with Jack Price. But it brings about this new branch of science where it encourages a multitude of engineering and medical districts where people pursue breakthroughs, hence nanotechnology. But a combination of these methods is what's most desired. because that's what's going to hit the targeted areas and eliminate those illnesses and diseases most effectively. Within the article of cloning Dolly the sheep, we see the first successful genetically replicated organism. And if we can generate an entire organism from one cell, then why can't we use this technology to rebuild missing limbs or organs or even immune-based cells that can tackle sickle cell anemia, for instance? The University of Trieste has developed carbon nanotubes and has successfully transferred electronic signals across synapses. So what does this mean to us? Well, take the case, for instance, of a person who has gone through brain damage. Well, this treatment can actually aid them in rebuilding those synaptic connections, whether it's for motor skills or cognitive skills or memory enhancements or whatever the case. The most frightening thing with these treatments, however, is that we don't know what the result is going to be. And it brings about three main questions. Why would we want to? Could we? And should we? Within the article by Belinda Smith on why we haven't edited the human genome yet, they introduced this concept of CRISPR, or CRISPR, which is the most promising genome editing tool known today. And they've declared that it lacks reliability and actual effectiveness. However, it's not fair. This is not fair because we're at a stage where we're not able to provide evidence. So what I want you to do is to sign my petition so that we can give them the evidence that they want. And people might say that we're creating a superior human race, but in reality, we're just building upon future human potential. Now that I've informed you of the potential of nanotechnology, by a show of hands, how many will want to sign my petition now?